Let us start the day 4 at a very happy note because Mrinal sir is here and sir brings a lot of, can we say, happiness and warmth with him and has been with a close association with our school. So, with a warm welcome, I would like to request all the participants to keep them muted. And after Sir's talk, we will have a question answer session and kindly fill up the feedback form also. So, I would now request Dr. Bidubhushan Das to formally welcome Sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, esteemed the speaker and dear participants. It's always a privilege and honor to welcome and introduce Professor Mrinal Chatterjee, a seasoned academician, author, translator, and great orator to the participants in the 10th session of Day 4 of the Faculty Development Program organized by the School of Mass Communication, KIIT deemed university. Professor Chatterjee works as a professor and regional director at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Dhenkanal. He has also more than 2 decades of academic experience and more than 1 decade of industry experience in the language media. As an academician, Professor Chatterjee has published many research papers in national and international reputed journals, magazines, and have delivered many keynote addresses and invited talks across the country in many national forums. During his journalistic career, Professor Chatterjee has been awarded the prestigious KK Birla Foundation Fellowship in 1996 and Journalist Fellowship by Center for Science and Environment CSE, New Delhi in 1991 and 1992. Professor Chatterjee has made immense contribution to the field of fiction writing with more than 10 novels and 7 short story collections and a series of columns in Odia dailies. He has published 5 books on journalism and mass communication in Odia. His writings are also translated into other Indian languages and English. Professor Chatterjee is highly qualified with triple master's degree, English, Public Administration, and Mass Communication, and doctorate in Mass Communication from Berhampur University. Professor Chatterjee is associated with our school from its early days. He was the esteemed member of our Board of Studies. His guidance and support for us is immense. We are grateful to you, sir. I welcome you as a resource person to the Faculty Development Program 2021, organized by the School of Mass Communication, KIIT University of Bhubaneswar. May I request you to deliver a talk for around 40 minutes. Then we will have a few questions, may continue to up to 5 o'clock or 10:05 with your due permission. Professor Chatterjee will be talking on a very relevant topic, very interesting topic. Hit the pause button, repositioning journalism in a post-pandemic world. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. The subject that I chose to speak on, I thought maybe this pandemic has done something with the way we have been practicing journalism and teaching journalism. So this time which we have now for the last 18 months, everything has come to a standstill, including economy. So this is the time probably, maybe we can think, how do we practice journalism post-pandemic, in a post-pandemic world? How do we teach journalism in the post-pandemic world? What do we want our journalism students, media students to do? How do they negotiate with post-pandemic world? That is the background of picking up this subject. I want all of you young media teachers to hit the pause button and think. The way we have been teaching journalism, the way we have been asking our students to practice journalism, do we require some changes? And if yes, then what could be those changes? And how we want our students to negotiate with those changes. This is what we are going to discuss for the next 35 minutes. I'll leave about 10-15 minutes to discuss. Whatever questions you have, please feel free to ask. Now, एक ज़माना था, let me begin with one शेर of Anwar Masood. एक ज़माना था जब लोग कहा करते थे कि इस वक्त वहां कौन धुआं देखने जाए, इस वक्त वहां कौन धुआं देखने जाए, अखबार में पढ़ लेंगे कहां आग लगी है. That was the situation at one point of time, right? Now time has come to this, and here is another say. अखबार के इतनी ज़मीर तो बची हुई है, अखबार के इतनी ज़मीर तो बची हुई है, तारीख तो ठीक ठाक छाप देते हैं. Right? So from that to this, media, especially news media, the perception, I'm not saying it has come to this, but in the perception of people, it has come from this to this. And if we go even that side to the past, I'm reminded of another say by Akbar Ilahabadi, who had said, खींचो ना कमानों को, खींचो ना कमानों को, ना तलवार निकालो. जब तोप मुकब्बिल हो, तो अखबार निकालो. You don't have to draw your sword. You don't have to draw your tirandaji ki kaman is that bow. You don't have to draw on your bow, right? If you want to really fight, go publish a newspaper. That is what Akbar Ilahabadi had said during freedom struggle times. 2, इस वक्त वहां कौन धुआं देखने जाए, अखबार में देख लेंगे. And it actually happened with Hindu newspaper, I'm reminded. Right? People will not believe that something has happened unless they find the report of that published in Hindu. Acha, aisa hua hai? Right? Coming back to the objectives of journalism. What, pray, are the objectives of journalism? क्या objectives? Debates over the nature and objective of journalism are age-old. There have been debates over whether journalism is modeled as social action, or as a social system, or as popular culture, or it has any normative function. Is pe bhari debate, it has been going on. And these 4 objectives, they determine the relationship between news media and its audience. Now, I'm not going into that debate now, right? We can go on and on with that debate, but I'm not going into that debate now. I'm taking all these as objectives of journalism. Now, what had happened during this 18 months, right? Corona was detected in India in December 2019. We didn't care. We thought ours is a pious land. वो corona वरना कुछ नहीं होगा, right? Suddenly, by March, we realized, oh my God, corona आ गया, lockdown कर लो. It was in late March that we took a very proactive step by locking the entire country for days together, and thereby inflicting damage to our economy, inflicting damage to the social fabric, inflicting other damages. I'm not going into that. So from March, end March 2020 till this day, and we are looking further also, We are actually waiting for a third wave. पहले इंडियन वेरिएंट, ब्राजील वेरिएंट, पाकिस्तान वेरिएंट कहते थे, तो हमको बहुत बुरा लगा, पाकिस्तानियों को भी बुरा लगा, हमें भी बुरा लगा. Then we have changed the name. We are calling it Delta variant, Beta variant, something. So we are waiting for the Delta variant, and then there is another Beta variant waiting somewhere, waiting for again to come another wave, right? और ये जो फंगस, ये तो इंद्रधनु है या फंगस है पता ही नहीं चलता. I mean, black fungus आ गया, white fungus आ गया, blue fungus आ गया. I mean, so this is going to continue for quite some time, right? Those of young men and women who are waiting to marry, कि ये कोरोना खत्म हो जाए, अब मैरिज कर लेंगे, वो भी अब हाल छोड़ दिए हैं, चलो शादी कर ही लेते हैं, ये नहीं छोड़ेगा. Something like that. So corona pandemic has affected and killed millions around the world. Never before in our living memory we have seen a pandemic ravaging through the entire world for such a long time. In our living memory, Spanish flu happened sometime in 1990, and it stayed for 2.5 years. Right? Probably corona will beat Spanish flu. Right? Probably, I don't know. Now, so it has if affected every part of our life and living, including life, livelihood, economy, health, education, everything. Everything. The society is not the society that we lived in 1990 till 1990. It has changed. है ना? अब घर में कोई आ भी जाता है तो हमें लगता है कि ये यमदूत बेल बजा रहा है. We do not like people coming to our houses. The way we interacted with people has changed completely. My mother has been a very sociable lady. Now, if somebody telephones, aschana to, the first question she asked, is he coming home or not? I say no. Then she, okay. You get my point? Everything has changed. And journalism, which reflects society with all its wart and all, beauty and wart and whatever, it's bound to change. It has changed. It has been impacted. Now, what exactly have been the impacts on journalism? Let's discuss about that for 5-10 minutes before we go on. It has impacted the process of journalism because mobility has been impacted. You cannot, the journalists cannot move freely. Mobility impacted. When mobility is impacted and journalists are mandated to get information, what do they do? So dependence on technology has increased. Right? It's not only in collecting news. It's also for collating news. It's also for page making. It's also for video editing. Never before we have seen, television anchors anchoring a news program sitting at home. It happened. Never before we have found sub-editors doing work from home. One of my students is in Kolkata working for Times of India. I asked him, what are you doing? He says, I'm doing office work. I said, office work from home? He said, sir, yes, this is the new normal. I have been working like this for the last 6 months. I'm making the entire page at home. Unthinkable. So the way journalists used to work has changed. Right? Process has been impacted. Content has been impacted. Process में और एक बात भी है. The reporters, they are working with great risk when they go right? They take this risk of getting infected. We are keeping track at IIMC, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Dhenkanal, we are keeping track of journalists in Odisha who have died of COVID. Do you know 50 journalists have died? 50 journalists in Odisha alone, they have died of COVID. Right? It happened because there is no other way for them to collect news. They had to go. Or probably at certain point of time, young journalists, they think or they take it up as an adventure. ये मेरे काम है, ये adventure. And they are not trained in taking care of themselves. What safety measures a journalist should take when he or she goes out to report? They have not been trained. Indian Institute of Mass Communication, of course, we came up with a SOP, standard operating procedure, for working journalists for on safety and all. We did our bit, but then there are thousands of journalists who didn't know that such SOP exists. So it impacted the content also. People wanted to know more about this disease. In living memory, they have not engaged with this disease. दिखाई नहीं देता, पर मार रहा है लोगों को. And I mean, and a chaos of fake news. Left, right, center, WhatsApp University, Instagram University, everywhere fake news. So people wanted to know more about this disease. They wanted to know, how do I protect myself and my family? And interestingly, nobody had a clue, not even who. Today they are coming up with one instruction, tomorrow they are coming up with another instruction, because they also did not know. Never before something like this has happened. Right? There were conspiracy theories, there were theories like, do this, corona will not affect you. And add to that the stupidity of our people. Thali bajao, glass bajao, shaank phoonko. From there to gomutra piyo, gobar lagao, to naak mein sarson ki tel dalo. I mean, you have it. You open WhatsApp University and you have a full kind of dictionary of it. So people wanted to know more, and there was fake news. So there was opportunity for the journalists to provide credible news, which is the basic work of journalists. So what changed? They had to work under a very inhospitable situation, under a very risky situation, right? Gone are the days where people will be happy to know about, sundry things. Aishwarya Rai ki beti ab kitni badi ho gayi hai. People used to have that kind of interest earlier. Now, no. Now, corona ki koi naya dabai aaya hai. So this disease has occupied our mind space for more than 18 months in a way never ever experienced in our living memory. So therefore, here is the duty of journalists to cater to the need, real need of people. In a way, this is the time journalism should take a pause and think about its duties. The basic duty of a journalist, the basic work of news media. We must rethink about that. And this time has given us this opportunity to take a pause and think. In Hindi, there is a very good word called thera. It's used in music, it's used in other areas as well. Thera. Thera is ektu dandiya ja. Thoda ruko, pause lo, socho, and then you move on. Now, what exactly is this repositioning that I'm talking about? I'm saying, and I want your attention here, that we need to take journalism from the pre-pandemic here and now mode, right, to fact and fallout mode. That's what I want you to appreciate. Now I have to tell you, what do I mean by here and now and fact and fallout. Here and now is the emphasis is on speed. हमें अभी देना है, सबसे तेज होना है ना? अभी का अभी. News as it happens, as it unfolds. अभी अभी हमें खबर मिला है, something, right? So from here and now mode to fact and fallout mode. When you put too much emphasis on speed, you tend to commit mistakes. You tend to oversee facts. You tend to give out unconfirmed information when you put too much emphasis on here and now kind of journalism, right? This pandemic has taught us that instead of here and now, we must reposition ourselves to fact and fallout. ये fact हमें देना है और इसका fallout क्या है, ये भी हमें देना है, right? The follow-up of the news also is important. We must say that there has been migration of laborers, and we also must say what has been its impact on economy, what has been its impact on them, on their lives. Right? This has been the core of good journalism. Probably in the razzmatazz of the pressure of being top in the pecking order to get more TRP ratings, to get more circulation, we have forgotten that we had been catering not to the need but to the want of people. We need to pause and get back to tie up our acts together, right? Now, we have been giving journalism pre-pandemic. The idea was to bombard people with data and information, right? Whether you need it or not, whether it's relevant or not, right? Bombard. Right? So mass of data mean nothing if you cannot figure out what does that mean and how that is relevant to me and the society. Now is the time to do that. Technology has enabled us to access data of unthinkable volume, right? We can aggregate data at an unthinkable speed. But to what purpose? Right? So this is the repositioning of journalism. We must think to what purpose we are doing this. Using artificial intelligence is good. Using algorithm is good. right? But to what purpose? That's the repositioning. We must think, I mean, pre-pandemic, there used to be a time when the technology was making great strides. Remember the robot giving you news in Xinhua? Bilkul. Right? Chicken. Technology is all right. Right? But to what purpose? And is it relevant to me in my social context? Do I do something with that? Am I benefited by that, by that piece of information, by the time you spent to collect all those information, give me this report? Right? That's repositioning. Another important fact is to know what kind of stories to aim for the young media teachers. That should be important to note. What kind of stories that we should encourage our students to go for, right? We should make our students understand what our needs are. Wants could be and often are created. We must teach our students that. Wants can be created. Needs are not. But the irony is, often wants are overhyped and needs are neglected. Right? You find more advertisements of Dio than ORS. Get my point? So we must teach our students that. We must teach them why is it important to focus on the core areas of life and living. And this pandemic has provided us the opportunity to show them examples. Dekho baba yehi hai. We have never cared for our monsoon. Barish aata hai, jata hai, and barish is an irritant for urban people. Pani ho jata hai, ja nahi sakte. But what a good monsoon does to economy of a country of this size and 9 geographical climatic areas like India, right? Ek failed monsoon and the economy is shattered. We survived the first and second wave of corona mostly because we had a good monsoon last year. And by God's grace, this year also monsoon has come in right time and with adequate right amount of rainfall, water. Probably we will be tiding over the third wave also, unless our leaders fail us big time, which you never know they can. Why monsoon is important? Our students must know that. Our students must know that about the migratory laborers, the economy that they churn out. Why it's important for village economy as well. Right? We must know these basic things, and this is the time to highlight the importance of these core areas. That is what I call repositioning of journalism, back to the core areas. We must orient, and also we must orient them. These are some new areas that we must integrate in our syllabus. We must orient them to study areas like media policy framed by the government. We must orient them to study areas like governance and role of media in framing people-directed policies and facilitating governance. These are some of the areas where we must put more emphasis. Another area is fake news. Of course, we have been including that in our syllabuses in many of the universities and institutes have done that. But I guess hands-on kind of work on workshop mode, probably we can go on and teach our students that, right? We must teach our students to negotiate digital technology, because digital technology is coming in a big way, right? So the way forward that I am envisaging is technologically state of the art. We must teach them digital technology. We must teach them, if we can, artificial intelligence. We must train them how algorithms are, at least teach them how algorithms work. What the big media companies like Google, Amazon, this and that, they are aggregating news. We must teach them that. But we must also teach them the core areas which are central to our life, to our living. Right? Now, some pedagogical changes also we must factor. As new technology emerges and society requires greater and deeper engagement on media and governance, there has to be a shift towards what I call constructivist and active learning. What is constructivism? Is the theory that says learners construct knowledge rather than just passively take in information. Right? So the kind of teaching that we used to do needs to be reoriented in constructivist mode. And to do that, we should adopt and adapt what I call project-based learning, PBL. From 90s, this concept is there, many institutes and universities, and they are taking it up. In some form, all of us also are engaged with project-based learning. But I guess in a changed situation where new technology is emerging, where the teacher knows as much or probably less than the student. Technology, right? What the teacher has more more is perspective, is experience, but the student may be more familiar with the technology. So the project-based learning is working together, collaborating to harvest knowledge, right? So, as I was telling you, project-based learning is one such approach which underlines social constructivism as its epistemological paradigm. Epistemology is knowledge, the art of knowledge. Pedagogy is the art of teaching. From pedagogic approach to epistemological approach. That is the change that gradually media teachers have to factor in. And this could be done in a better way, in a more, how should I put it, in a more easy way if we adopt project-based learning. It will not replace the entire syllabus. It will not. But it can be supplemented. Get my point? So it goes beyond as a way of learning to more of a working together on context-based, authentic, process-oriented projects and tasks. In simple terms, it is an inquiry-based and learner-centered, in-depth investigation of real-world problems through students' use of disciplinary concepts, processes, instruments, and experiences. This is where I want your practical engagement. Now, we have consumed 35 minutes. I have a task for you, and I'll give you 5 minutes, right? What I want you to do is to think about 5 projects which maybe you can assign your students to do with your mentorship. You will be the mentor. 5 project ideas, or maybe 1 project idea each. So we will have about 30. Right? Clear? Answer me.
Is it assignment or is it assignment or project?
No, just come up with 1 idea. I'm not asking you to entire write idea that yes, sir, this could be a project which I can ask my students to do with me as a mentor.
Yeah, sir.
Babu, yes, please.
Okay. So during the last pandemic, this is something we've been doing sporadically, but during pandemic last year, because they were stuck in the most of our villages, students are from villages. So I asked them to profile the villages and any institutions that they have in the villages, from an old library or a very old majar or a temple, and then also to profile important people, like say somebody who has been a martyr or somebody who has gone and is serving in the army, because many people in Haryana, they serve in the army and the armed forces. So those kind of profiling is something they could do staying at home, and also to do success stories like people who are doing innovative farming or organic farming, or are into cash crops, and are real examples, are setting examples for others to follow. So those kind of stories they did. Now this is something we've been doing, staying home, they can do the stories, and I could mentor them in terms of the kind of questions they could ask. And this is something we've been continuing this year also. Thank you.
I was thinking of something upscaling that. Mm-hmm. This is this beginning starting point, but let's go beyond that. Let's upscale that. Yes. Anybody else?
Sir, actually, in fact, I was going through a story. It was a story, in fact, prepared by the student of Dhenkanal IIMC during the financial depression time, when the census goes down, kind of thing. It was a terrible state of condition, but the students made a completely different story. They made a story of the people who were happy out of the financial depression. Who are happy out of the financial depression, because
they're happy being poor.
Yes. Actually, sir, there are few families. Actually, the people were working abroad, kind of thing, the Saudi Arabia countries and where. So they were sending money to their families, and can say they took the bite of the banks or the financial transaction agencies where they were sending the money. So it was a completely I can say, out of the box kind of story. Similar to this, I can say I will suggest my students to prepare a report or make a research, we can say, to make a story on the, I can say, make a story on the organizations who are getting benefited out of this pandemic, because there are few organizations, we can say the pharmaceutical companies, we can say, or the online delivery, home delivery companies, they are earning, they are generating a huge amount of revenue out of their taking just an opportunity kind of thing. So we should, it is my knowledge. I am thinking to prepare a story.
Okay,
I will
okay, that could be a project. Say if you focus on, say, home delivery of food or home delivery. I mean, the entire
yes, exactly,
courier service,
exactly.
isn't that?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that could be. Yes, somebody else, some other idea. Let's have some ideas.
May I go?
Yes, please.
Sure, sir.
Hello, sir. It was really nice listening to you.
And please tell me your name.
Sure, sir. My name is Shobtik Gorai.
Huh.
I'm a faculty associate at KIIT School of Mass Communication.
Hmm.
I joined 2019. Right. So I usually take understanding documentary related courses or television journalism related courses per se. So one idea, as you had asked, like this is something I also practice with my students as well. So this is during the brainstorming session when they come up with their topics, is that let's say I ask them to choose a social issue, for that matter, any issue of their choice, and then find the relevance of that issue in their local area, or find case
Very
studies.
good. Hmm.
Find case studies wherein they can identify that particular issue around them and try to identify if anything new is coming about from there. For example, the first week maybe goes into dealing with the data that already exists and seeing kind of what all data is there, what all perspectives are already in place, are already there. And then going about raking to find newer perspectives, maybe as a result, newer voices come out, newer issues come out as well. And also one can draw a mind map of how one particular issue is probably connected to another issue which was not thought of, for that matter. So newer perspectives and newer links and connections come up. And at the end of the day, let's say I divide my students. So usually we have a band like 16 students in a class or something like that. We make 4 documentary films, 4 students in a team. So we identify, we see that the 4 topics, which even though were divergent, was quite different, they have certain link between them. So this can be a finding in itself that you can find from. So it's not 4 different projects.
So web kind of a
Exactly.
structure.
Yeah.
When everything is related and linked to some other issues.
That's right.
Great. And that exactly is one of the objectives of project-based learning, that nothing is happening in isolation.
In isolation.
It has a connect with some other issue. It has a connect with some other happening, right? Great. Very good.
Sir, there are some messages in the chat box. So Dr. ACP Tripathi says strategic role of behavioral change communication for pre-post COVID-19 vaccination at individual and social level.
Can Dr. Tripathi explain that? I mean,
yes,
always
sir,
better to listen to the person from.
And then Sir Bidhu sir also has a message. He can also.
Yep. It's good to hear from them. Yep.
Could you please unmute, sir?
Where's Dr.
Very good evening, sir. Is my voice audible to you?
Yeah, yes.
Sir,
Where are you from, Dr. Tripathi?
Yes, sir. Presently, I am working at Amity University, Madhya Pradesh, Gwalior.
Okay.
I have done my PhD from Assam University, Silchar. And sir, I wanted to emphasize that behavioral change communication is a very important aspect in the terms of health communication. And a lot of effort has to be taken right from the individual level.
Dr. Tripathi, we are now discussing the practicality of this, right? How do we engage our students in doing something which is in sync with the theoretical aspects that we have already taught, with the happening that is that's there for everybody to see? How do we make kind of a project in which they can do that practically? Am I clear, Dr.
Yes,
Tripathi?
Yes, sir, I am clear.
Think about some project, absolutely practical project. This is what we need to do. This is what our students will be doing.
Sir, namaskar.
Yes.
Okay. Mohan
Dr. Naik.
Okay.
Fakiro Bartaman Koibini, so Pore, Dr. Naik.
Sir, actually, in the last semester, I was teaching development communication to my students. So, because all the students are there at their home and they are not coming to the campus, and we are completely dependent on online mode. So, we are in the internal assessment process. We are having 3 assignments as well as 1 portfolio. In the portfolio, I had assigned the students. Sorry, another element is there, and that is a mini video project. For either a theory or practical, the student has to submit the mini video. So I had assigned them because I was teaching development communication to them. So this was my assignment that wherever you are living, whether you are living in rural areas or you are living in urban areas, if you are living in urban areas, then in every urban area there is a slum, definitely. So there are so many schemes for slum development, how it is implemented there, and what exactly is the slum condition. I sent them, every student, to make a video of that from their locality, from their local slum, not that you are going to any other place. Similarly, in rural areas, the rural development schemes are there and how it is implemented. Suppose we are talking about Prime Minister Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, whether it is implemented there, whether that village is connected to the main road or not, or the highway or not, they have to make the video and they have to establish it. So this was this is how I engaged my students in the previous semester in the video project. And at the same time, whatever assignments are given, in that assignment, basically the approach is purely practical oriented approach, right? Suppose you are the urban planner or you are the rural planner for development, what kind of schemes you can plan, what kind of what you can say, the mechanism you can develop for the development of the people, those who are living in the grassroots level. So people came up, students came up with their individual ideas. I think this was a proper engagement, what I did. If you can suggest me or guide me in that regard.
That's good, but what I'll suggest you, Dr. Naik, to do is not to think from quote unquote development communication perspective. Don't give them that well, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Allow them the freedom to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Right.
that freedom is there. Yes. That freedom is
that's
there.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, not confined to that 4 walls, or it is not purely a watertight compartment.
right.
Right.
Go beyond the box.
Yes,
go beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes. Anybody else with some other idea?
Sir, Dr. Vidubhushan.
Yes, we do.
Sir,
Yeah. So as it is radio and community radio in specific, so the idea can be let the students, let the students go to the nearest slum. In fact, nearest slum is Sikharchandi slum next to our campus, and they can go to the nearest slum. They can take the bites, voices of the people of different strata and come up with the audio files, prepare the recordings, then edit the files, then upload in the internet, and they may create one app if possible, and they can go to the slum again and share their voices to them. And that can be a direct civic engagement of the students and understanding the reality, as most of the students are there in utopian world, campus life.
Exactly. And that is another objective of this kind of learning, because most of our students, especially in elite institutions like KIIT and of course in IIMC and in other institutes as well, they are coming from urban areas and they do not have any connect with the marginalized world. They do not have any connect.
Right. I just want to add one point here. Actually, yes, I second Dr. Vidubhushan that since February 16, we have launched our own community radio station in the campus. So we have engaged our students for the program production, and basically this university is situated in a village. The village name is Gaduang, right? And in nearby areas, there are almost 30-40 villages. And we are sending our students to the villages, talk to people directly in the local language, in the, because it is in Punjab, so in Punjabi, they are talking and what problems they have and how they are connected with the government, how they are connected with the developmental process. They are also engaged in that way, and we are producing the content regularly for our radio station.
Like those of you who have access to audio technology and all, the community radio station, if you have, that's great. Even if you do not have, you can ask your students to pick up. Now, how do they do audio programs? There are free apps available, and they can do that. Maybe they can do stories or on social history, oral history they can record, right? In several villages, there are songs, there are folk lores which have not been recorded. If we can ask our students to record that and probably work on that, right? And here they can take the help of internet. We have umpteen number of such programs on internet. Maybe they can pick up some, mix and match, and then can come up with great stories, right? Now, any other idea? And with that, we will end this idea thing. Yes. Yes.
Sir,
yes.
I thought you asked about projects during the pandemic. That's the reason why I talked about those things. They're not scaled up. They're very basic. There are two reasons. Number one, I teach print media. I teach print journalism. And number two, most of my students are from villages with hardly any internet facility. That's the biggest problem. Very haphazard kind of internet. Now, sometimes I used to take classes over WhatsApp. Last year at least. This year, thankfully, things have improved. And the problem is that even if they have mobile connections, it's not sufficient for more than for three classes, for 3 hour long classes. And normally you have got about 5 hour classes. So most of the conversations were over WhatsApp. That's number one. Scaling up could be like, say, for example, our students have been doing this social history thing. They've been, because Haryana is again rich with the folk culture and other things, oral culture. So they've been doing that. And what they've been doing is that they're doing their own podcasts. They've got their own blogs and they're doing their own broadcast. And that is irrespective of their specialization, whether print media, electronic media, or advertising, public relation, or whatever. We encourage everybody to do at least a podcast. That also, and then that is something which can be scaled up to a documentary or a short film.
Absolutely.
So this is how we scale up. Normal times we do a lot of stuff, but because I gave you those basic examples, basic assignments.
During this pandemic, there are some handicaps. Yes. We will pick up one or two more
There are
ideas.
2 more comments, sir, in the chat box. Dr. Pratik Patnaik, he says that media and health communication during COVID, that is the theme he gives to his students to work on their projects. And Dr. Shamla says that our students to work with rural communities at our university, fishing community and their problem in pandemic.
Pratik lives at a place called Bandar Sundari. The university is located there, and Rajasthan happens to be one place where you have a lot of art and craft and a lot of artisans and musicians and this and that. So Pratik can do a lot of work. Are you there, Pratik?
Hello, sir.
Are you there?
Yes, sir.
God has taken you to a good place, actually. Yeah. I think there's this problem. Another is fishing community.
Actually, a project that I gave for the 4th semester. Make a video project on.
Sir, I think you are having some
not
network
only
issues.
from the surroundings, but also from their own.
You can
Yeah,
put
I
off
think
your video, I suppose.
yeah.
Put your video off,
Okay.
then you will be audible.
Actually, there's a dust storm outside, so I think maybe that is why there's a network issue. In Rajasthan, we have this dust storms. Huh?
Okay, now Dr. Shamala has written here fishing community and their problem during the pandemic. And yes, so I'm so happy that many of media academicians, they are thinking in that line, they're doing in that line. Maybe we have to scale up this activity. Maybe we can we have to proactively involve ourselves in mentoring these students to find out issues and story ideas and provide little hand-holding support as well. Technology, yes. Technology, they will learn all by themselves. I mean, young men and women, as I see, they can pick up technology of their own. And I do not know how, but they are doing that. But if we can teach them a little bit of the technology, fine-tuning that, that's okay. But when it comes to ideas and when it comes to how to take this story forward, how to do this in a project mode, what else do they require, right? So that mentoring, I think, our academic media academicians should provide. So now to end, digital technologies, as I told you, digital technology is good. It has provided us a lot of tools to do something which was absolutely unthinkable in earlier times. But digital technology is also one technology which could be abused a lot, right? So it's a great power, and any great power should be accompanied by great responsibility. Otherwise, there is a great risk. In our time, we continue to live with that risk. That's the curse of any great power. That risk is always there. Now, how do we engage with that risk? Through legal framework, or through technology, or through creating awareness among people, which is the most difficult thing to do, right? That's completely different matter. The way I look at journalism is simple, and it has a very quintessential Indian root to it. I believe Satya, which is truth, Nyaya, which is justice, and Dharma, which is righteousness, not religion, righteousness. They have been the hallmark of journalism, be it in India, be it abroad. These are the qualities which have held journalism, lifted journalism to the pedestal of respectability. Our students to join journalism because of this, because they think it has this. And these three form what I call the trinity of journalism. This is the core formed over years of rigor and sacrifice by the journalists. Journalism in any platform. We have digital now. We used to be in analog mode 20 years before. So any platform, any form must stick to this. Otherwise, that will be the end of journalism. We will not require a pandemic to wipe out journalism. It will self-destruct itself. And unfortunately, we find traces of this suicidal trend in present-day journalism. Our media academicians must make our students aware about this self-destruction trends. That is a duty that we have towards our students, towards journalism as a profession. Thank you very much. Now the floor is open for questions.
I would request participants to ask questions to sir. You can ask them directly or type in the chat box. I could read out also if you are having any network issues. And kindly fill up the feedback form also. Thank you.
Ruby ma'am, I have a comment to make, kind of a question comment next, so if I may.
Yes, Shopti, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Yeah. So, so this is an observation of mine that, you know, I have seen that most journalism teachers are probably the biggest critics of present day journalism in the first place. That's one. So for the students who are coming to learn journalism, it's very important for them to look up to the subject that they are willing to learn, that they would be investing their time and effort into. And it is as well very important for us to critique it and not kind of take it on face value as it is and appreciate it. But I feel, as myself also, I feel sometimes maybe I'm failing to give great examples of good journalism to students in modern day, be it with case studies from our country or maybe from abroad, or maybe taking examples from the Vietnam War or other examples, if I may. So, like, what are the responsibilities, I would rather ask you as a journalism teacher, as a teacher of communication and journalism, to make them appreciate journalism and make them something to look up to and thus motivate them? Because right now it's I find mostly about assignment, like do this assignment, ye assignment karo, wo assignment karo, wo assignment karo, and they themselves hear us कि ये क्या कर, this is not journalism, that is not journalism, this is bad, that is bad. But we are probably failing to show that this is probably good or this is better. So
I entirely agree with you that probably critiquing is all right. But if you become sarcastic, you denigrate the profession, then probably you are doing harm to this noble profession. I entirely agree with you. As a person who has put in 15 years in journalism, when somebody till date, after 20 years of putting in as a teacher, says something bad about journalists, I do react. I get enraged, right? And I can entirely appreciate that if it is so bad, why are you there teaching that? Right.
Sir, taking cue from you, actually, when you told about Satya, Nyaya, and Dharma, right? I'm quoting some scriptures from, I think it is from Bharturari Niti Sataka, right? Nasa sabhajatra nasanti bruddha, nate bruddha jo navadanti dharmam, nasa dharma jatra nasatyam asti, natat satyam jat chhalenanvitam. The last line is more powerful. धर्म वो नहीं जो सत्य नहीं है, सत्य वो नहीं जो छलना में आबद्ध है. That means it is covered by some kind of conspiracy or what you can say. So how to protect satya, that is the challenge. Nyaya and dharma you can ultimately get, because everything, all those two are linked to satya. So as long as you are upholding satya, then obviously Nyaya and Dharma will be there.
And may I add whose truth? Sorry, may I add whose truth? Your truth, my truth, Mrinal sir's truth? Whose truth?
Okay, we will come back to whose truth later. But now, to answer Soptik's queries, and more than queries, it's a concern. And I shared the concern. Every year we find young men and women coming to our departments trying to be journalists. And if from day one they hear from the teacher who would be teaching them journalism that it's a profession of dalals. There are a bunch of dalals out there, thugs, dalals, right? Lapdogs, prostitutes. From day one, if they hear that, will they really love this profession? We know whatever we have said about present-day journalism is true, and that could be true for any other profession as well, right? In this pandemic time, doctors are selling ICU beds. So there are black sheeps in all professions. So I entirely agree and share this concern with Shakti. As media academicians, probably critiquing is all right. We teach our students to critique everything. And I share the way Mihir Babu puts that, whose truth. We ask our students to ask all the time these questions, right? Asking questions is at the center of journalism as a profession, right? So coming back, so what we can do as media academicians is not to be overtly critical to the profession of journalism. There are good journalists. Good journalism is happening. It's just that the bad journalists make more news, more noise, not news, noise, and hug more headlines. Right? Now, as media academicians, we have to tell them about Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi, who sacrificed his own life to stop a danga. We have to tell them about Aurobindo. We have to tell them about Subhash Chandra. We have to tell them about, modern day journalists also, you know them, who have been doing good work, right? We must do that. It's our duty as teachers to uphold the respect of the profession. You won't find a doctor teaching and saying कि ये doctor लोग तो kidney निकाल लेते हैं. You don't find them doing. You don't find engineering teachers telling to BTech students, हमारे अरे ये क्या कहते हैं सिविल इंजीनियरिंग में है क्या बालू में रेत मिलाना है, सॉरी रेत में सीमेंट में रेत में सीमेंट व्हाटएवर ये करना है, परसेंटेज लेना अपना धर्म है. I mean, you don't find them talking that. Why should we? Yes, I share your concern and I appreciate that.
Our next speaker, Professor Archana ma'am, has also joined us. Welcome, ma'am. And Bidu sir, can we take a question two more, or do we have time?
Yes. In fact, the next session is at 5:15, so we have around 5 minutes. So
okay,
we can take one
so,
question.
Somebody has said, just written, Dr. ACP Tripathi, the trust in news has grown amid the coronavirus pandemic, with 44% of the respondents globally saying that they trust most news most of the time, but the figure is below average at 38% in India, according to a recent survey report conducted by Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, University of Oxford. How can media-government relationship in India can overcome such chartings?
Sir, adding to that, Dr. Pranta Patnaik has put on a issue that when students go for internship and they come back, then then they tell them that all that these ethics do not work in real life. So how to deal with that?
First, let me deal with this and then the other one. That is a perennial question. I mean, for the last 20 years I've been teaching. For the last 20 years, I kind of hear this kind of question. Now, trust in news. The trust quotient was gradually sliding down till this pandemic happened. During this pandemic, people probably by default or probably उब गए, इतना फेक न्यूज आया व्हाट्सएप यूनिवर्सिटी में, बोला कि ये हो ही नहीं सकता. Then probably they went back to mainstream news papers or news media, and that is going to happen. And the last part of Dr. Tripathi's question, how can media-government relationship in India can overcome such chartings? The answer lies in the question. Media and the government, ये जो कोजी पूरा भाव है, इसको थोड़ा दूर हटाना है. Media and government should always be like सास बहू. Media being bahu, government being saas. तू में is a must. होना ही चाहिए. अगर पूरा बहू सास के whatever the saas says bahu does, the family cannot run. सीधी सी बात ये है. Right? So the media must critique the government. Must. It's the duty of media to critique government. Who else will do? Right? So ठीक है, relationship ठीक है, अच्छा relationship भी होना चाहिए, but media should be in a position and should have the guts and courage to critique the government on all occasions which warrants this kind of criticism. Right? That's my take on this. Yes. There was another question, Ruby.
No, sir. I think these are the two questions. You've answered both of them.
Yes, that internship thing. There are certain things which in practical life probably doesn't work. But if you look at overall situation, ethics, actually, there are two kinds of approaches to ethics. Deontological, right? And another ethics is the end justifies the means. Another, there are two types. One is end justifies the means. So, means जो भी हो, अगर end ठीक है, अच्छा है, तो that is quite good. Another kind of ethics emphasizes on the end to have the good end, you must take a good means as well. ये दो टाइप एथिक्स के बीच झगड़ा ये बहुत पुरानी है, right? In one line, you must stick to the three things that we told you, or at least one thing that Fakir mentioned. Satya. Everything will fall in place.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now invite my colleague, Dr. Anurag Sahu, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you for Mrinal sir. It was an amazing talk, and actually you started the talk with the starting phase of this pandemic, how it started and how gradually we became accustomed with it, and as unlike all the other industries and other departments, I think the industry of journalism mass communication is affected by it. Then you can have the objective of journalism. We should understand the real objective of journalism, and being media educated, we should understand first, and then we should teach the same to the students. And meanwhile, you talked about the perception of media consumers are changing. We should make a track on this, and we should, like I say, accordingly, we should teach the students. And most important thing that you have pointed out that we should bring change in the, I guess, integrate new areas of in our syllabus, existing syllabus, traditional syllabus. We should make it frequent change into a few new topics like media policy and media governance. And hopefully all the participants enjoyed the session, and last phase of session, like I said, it was not a talk, rather we discussed and we brainstormed on project-based learning system and all. Used to, I guess, a few participants have given their ideas on it. It was a beautiful session. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time and for this wonderful content. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.